The Germans had broken through. They were called in to stop them. And on the 24th of March, and there were thousands of planes we had to board. The sky was dark, all black, going over. Thousands of planes. And I was dropped just behind the Rhine River. I was the first one to jump. Opened up, hit the ground a little bit hard, but okay. So that was my first jump.
Born in Grayson, Saskatchewan on April 6, 1925, Carl Flagel, at the age of 97, shares his experiences growing up in the Great Depression in the 1930s, his experiences during the war as a paratrooper, fighting the Germans over the Rhine River, being married for 67 years, and his life in Ontario after the war.
My grandparents came when they were still Northwest Territories at that time. And then later on, in 1906, Saskatchewan and Alberta became a province. Well, you know that. But the first 7 years, it was called the Northwest Territories. Got 165 acres, and everything was fine until 1929. Then the damn crash came, and then they couldn't pay the big payments. 10 years of depression. It was tough. Yeah. Farmers were better off because at least they could grow their own food and stuff, animals. But the city people suffered. My dad and my grandfather were very resourceful people. My grandfather was a shoemaker, and he always made a bit of money because he used to repair shoes. And I remember sometimes over there, some of those ladies would come and they had running shoes, and they were bad shape, and charged him 25 cents. And that went on for a long time. Actually, he was a cobbler right till he was 90. My dad was a musician, and my mom loved to dance. And they were kids when they got married, and they were still kids when the three of us were born, yeah. and 4 or 5 years old. So, and he taught us how to play cards.
Oh, yeah.
We were five. Anne was 6, I was 5, and learned how to play cards. And so they were bored too. There was nothing to do. There was no television, no radio, nothing in those days. You talk about the war?
Yeah. What do you remember from the start of it?
I joined when I was 18. First was just infantry. Actually, I fell in love with Paratrooper brown boots. There was a picture of them, So I said I want to join the airborne. First I had to do basic training, just in infantry. And then they sent me to Manitoba, Camp Shallow, That's where the airborne were. And I had to do some more training. And then had to do a whole lot of exercise to get ready for jumping, It was pretty severe. Holy Jesus. They made us tumble and everything. Yeah. Oh my Christ. I thought they were going to kill us before we ever get there. And eventually, it was time to you had to get planes from a local airport, and only 2 people at a time at first. The instructor and they okay, stand in front of the door, and your chute was a wire upstairs. It was hanging on. It was automatically pulled when you jumped. Otherwise, a lot of them would be flat. Anyway, so I was the first one to jump. Opened up, hit the ground a little bit hard, but okay. So that was my first jump. In the end, I had to do a whole plane full, 20 to jump. Like that's what you would do in action, And then after 5 jumps, you got your wings, Yeah. That was a big thing. Oh, Jesus. And a few months later, we were sent over to England. I had to do the same thing over again. Yeah, five times I had to jump. Once you jumped out of a balloon, but that was tough. It's so goddamn quiet up there, And there's just a door, and those linemen are so laid back. Hey, have a go, lover. Have a go, buddy. Yeah, down there. What you do? And twice. And then, that was After that, we were qualified, and then a month later, we were sent overseas to where the real fighting was going on. And that lasted that for about two and a half years. The war is very brutal. So many people get killed. There's so many innocent people, young people, children, because Second World War bombing was, the first was always just a trench war, just men, but this time civilians, Civilians got killed just as well, and babies. It was a terrible time. It's a terrible time for human beings to want to do that to each other, you know. I was too young to be in the first one. The first one was dropped in 1944 in France, my regiment. The second one, the Germans had broken through, and they're heading for a port city where there was food, They were called in to stop them, That came in by land that time. And on the 24th of March, they were all assembled in England, and there were thousands of planes. We had to board. The sky was dark, all black, oh no, thousands of planes. And that was dropped just behind the Rhine River, and then it took 350 miles and 8 weeks to finally get to the Baltic coast. And across the coast you could see Sweden and Norway a little bit. And the 7th of May, the Germans finally gave up, And Churchill was pretty mad at Roosevelt in a way. Roosevelt had said, unconditional surrender was all it will take, Churchill was a little more foxy. He figured he was going to lie to them and say, well, talk about peace. So he figured they wouldn't fight so hard, So it was too late. So they fought right to the goddamn end. What the hell they have to lose, So it was a shame, but when the hell was war ever nice? Actually, it was Russia in the Second World War took the brunt of the war. They lost 25 million people. That's the whole population of Canada at that time. But they took the edge off the Allies. Never had the strength to fight the German army by themselves. They were too powerful. But with the Russians taking all that terrible loss, we just came in to help them at the end because they were starting to get exhausted too, And in Normandy, we landed in Normandy. That was a touchy thing, God. The sea was quite heavy, and they came in these flat boats. So a lot of the poor buggers, you couldn't get close enough to shore, and were weighted down with equipment. A lot of them drowned, for Christ's sake, before they even got a chance to get on the board. But eventually got in there. That's the France and Germany Star.
France and Germany Star. Is that yours? Yeah, that's good.
That's for being in action. You only get that if you actually fight against the enemy.
Yeah.
If you've never been out there, you never get that. That's the one that really counts the most. This is the one. That means you had head to toe, blow for blow.
Where did you land in Germany?
Where were you?
Where were you?
Well, we crossed the Rhine River.
Right.
Between France and, well, just across the river, we dropped, And then for 350 miles, went towards the Baltic, and there's a seaport there called Wismar on this side. And that's where we finally took that city, and then the 7th of May, the war was over, A day later, the Russians came from the east, because we were northeast, How long did it take? It took a year. Took a year till we finally took possession of all of Germany. And 7th of May 1945 was declared peace. Japan took 3 months later. That's when the Americans really were true soldiers. And that's the only time they really won a goddamn war by themselves. Why? Well, you know why? Because during the Depression, those men were tough, hard. The Americans won the Second World War in Japan by themselves. Britain helped a little bit, but I came back. I was a farmer. I made quite a bit of money. And I decided to go and visit my sister in Oshawa. She says, well, why don't you put your name in General Motors? I did. I got hired. 38 and a half years.
Yeah.
And I married my beautiful girl. We were both just turning 28 when we got married. But we knew each other for 2 years before. Oh, 1953. They were married for 67 years. We had a nice relationship. A buddy and I used to stay with us at the boarding house. Decided to go to a dance. It was between Christmas and New Year's. So I said, I noticed that there's a dance in upstairs in the Legion Hall, on Center Street. So we went there, and the music hadn't started yet. And that's just young lads looked the crap over her. All the girls were sitting on benches those days. I noticed that beautiful blonde there. I edged a little closer. I got there first.
There you go.
The rest is history. Kathleen Mall was her last name. She was a blonde, about 5 foot and a half, 1.5.
She came from Wales.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's a beautiful girl. I was a very lucky person. Oh, well, my name is Carl. My second name is Flagel. It's spelled like Flagel, but in the dramatic language, E is like an A. So that's why F-L-E-G-E-L is pronounced Flagel.
And what is your birthday?
6th of April, 1925.
Where were you born?
Oh, in Gayson, Saskatchewan.